Female CEO holds hands with a black stranger to avoid her ex, not knowing he'll be her lover. Autumn Reed's hands trembled as she stepped into the Seattle Art Museum. Thursday evenings were her sacred time, her escape from board meetings, investor calls, and the crushing weight of running Reed Technologies. But tonight, her sanctuary had been invaded. Preston Caldwell III stood in the main gallery, surrounded by his usual entourage of admirers, her ex-fiancé, the man who'd left her at the altar 2 years ago in front of 300 guests, the man who'd humiliated her so thoroughly she'd considered leaving Seattle entirely, and he was looking directly at her. Autumn's heart hammered. She was 35 years old, CEO of a $200 million tech company, and she was about to panic like a teenager. Preston's face lit up with recognition, and he started walking toward her with that confident stride that once made her weak. Not anymore. Never again. She spun around, nearly colliding with a tall black man studying a Rothko painting. He was striking, early 40s maybe, wearing a well-tailored charcoal suit that spoke of quiet success. His dark eyes were focused on the abstract canvas with genuine interest, not the pretentious appreciation Preston's crowd always faked. "I'm so sorry," Autumn gasped. "Autumn, there you are." Preston's voice, too close, too confident, too presumptuous. Autumn's brain shut down. Her body took over. She grabbed the stranger's hand and pressed herself against his side. "Darling," her voice came out too bright, too loud. "I've been looking everywhere for you." The man's eyes widened in surprise. For a terrifying second, Autumn thought he'd pull away, call her crazy, expose her desperate lie. But then something shifted in his expression. Understanding, maybe even amusement, and his large, warm hand closed around hers. "Sorry, sweetheart," he said smoothly, his voice deep and reassuring. "Got caught up in the exhibit upstairs. You know how I lose track of time with Rothko." Autumn could have kissed him. Instead, she leaned into him, trying to look natural, trying not to think about how solid and safe he felt beside her. Preston appeared at her elbow, his perfectly styled blonde hair gleaming under the museum lights. His smile was predatory. "Autumn, what a surprise seeing you here." "Preston," her voice was ice. This is Julian Foster." The stranger extended his free hand, while his other arm slipped around Autumn's waist with practiced ease. "Nice to meet you." Preston's handshake was brief, his eyes traveling over Julian with thinly veiled assessment, taking in his dark skin, his height, the intimate way Autumn pressed against him. "Foster," Preston repeated, his smile tightening. "I don't believe we've met. How do you know Autumn?" "Through work," Autumn said quickly. "Julian's been consulting for my company." "Consulting?" Preston's tone dripped condescension. "How interesting." "Autumn, we really should catch up. I've been meaning to call you." "I'm quite busy these days," Autumn interrupted, her fingers tightening on Julian's hand. "Between the company and my personal life." Julian squeezed back, a silent show of support. The gesture sent warmth through her chest. Preston's jaw clenched. He'd never handled rejection well. "Of course. Well, enjoy your evening, both of you." The moment Preston disappeared into the crowd, Autumn stepped back, mortified. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. That was completely insane. I panicked and you were there and I..." Julian smiled, warm and genuine. "Rough ex? The worst." Autumn ran a hand through her blonde hair, feeling her heart still racing. "He left me at the altar, in front of everyone, and now he won't stop trying to reconnect like nothing happened." "Sounds like a real prize." Julian's eyes held understanding, not judgment. "I'm Julian Foster, since we're apparently dating now." Despite everything, Autumn laughed. "Autumn Reed, and I promise I'm not usually this crazy." "Reed?" Julian's eyebrows rose slightly. "As in Reed Technologies? You're the CEO." "Guilty." She extended her hand properly this time. "Thank you for playing along. You saved me from a very uncomfortable conversation." Julian shook her hand, his grip warm and lingering. "Happy to help. Though I have to say, that's the most interesting museum visit I've had in years." There was something about his smile, easy, kind, with a hint of mischief, that made Autumn's stomach flutter. She realized she was still holding his hand and dropped it quickly, heat rising to her cheeks. "I should let you get back to your evening," she said, flustered in a way she hadn't been since high school. "Or," Julian said slowly, a smile playing at his lips, "you could let me buy you coffee. Make sure your ex really believes we're together. Wouldn't want my performance to be wasted." Autumn knew she should say no. This was insane. He was a complete stranger, but something about him felt safe, interesting, magnetic. "Coffee sounds good," she heard herself say. And just like that, everything changed. "Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. The museum cafe was quiet, intimate, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. They sat across from each other, the city lights twinkling behind them like stars. Julian ordered black coffee. Autumn got a latte with extra foam. The simple act of ordering felt strangely domestic, comfortable. "So," Autumn said, wrapping her hands around the warm cup, "what do you actually do, besides rescue desperate CEOs from their exes?" Julian smiled, the expression lighting up his entire face. "I'm a civil rights attorney, partner at Foster & Chen downtown. I specialize in employment discrimination cases." Autumn's respect for him immediately deepened. "That's important work." "It is." Julian sipped his coffee, his expression thoughtful. "Doesn't pay as well as tech, but it matters. I help people fight back when they've been wronged because of who they are. Race, gender, religion, disability. It's what my father did before he passed. I'm sorry about your father." "Thank you. He died 5 years ago. Heart attack at 58. Julian's voice held old pain. "Worked himself to death, fighting for justice, but he made a difference. That's what matters." They talked for an hour, and Autumn was surprised by how easy it felt. Julian told her about growing up in the Central District, raised by his father after his mother left when he was young. About putting himself through law school, about the satisfaction of winning a case for someone who'd been denied a job because of their skin color. Autumn shared her own story, building Reed Technologies from scratch at 27, the 70-hour weeks, the venture capitalists who dismissed her because she was a woman, the sweet victory of proving them all wrong. "And Preston?" Julian asked gently. "How does he fit into your story?" Autumn's expression darkened. "I met him through my mother. She was thrilled. He came from old money, right family, right connections. We dated for 2 years, got engaged, planned this massive wedding." She stared into her latte. "The morning of the wedding, he sent his best man to tell me he couldn't go through with it, that he'd realized he loved someone else. His assistant, 23 years old. Jesus," Julian breathed. 300 people at the church. My mother had invited everyone who was anyone in Seattle society, and I had to walk out there and tell them the wedding was off." Autumn's voice cracked slightly. "The humiliation was worse than the heartbreak. I realized I didn't even love him that much. I'd just been going through the motions of what I was supposed to want." Julian reached across the table and covered her hand with his. The touch was gentle, grounding. "That's not humiliation. That's dodging a bullet. Anyone who'd do that isn't worth your tears." "I haven't cried over him in a year," Autumn admitted. "But seeing him tonight, the way he looked at me like he had a right to my time, my attention," she looked up at Julian. "Thank you for understanding, for help us without asking questions." "You look terrified," Julian said simply. "I couldn't just walk away." Autumn studied him, this stranger who'd stepped into her desperate lie without hesitation. His dark eyes held kindness and intelligence. His smile was genuine, not practiced. There was something solid about him, something real that Preston had never had. "Can I ask you something?" Julian said, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt too intimate for strangers. "And I need you to be honest." "Okay. Does it bother you that I'm black?" The question caught Autumn off guard. "What? No. Why would?" "Because I've been down this road before," Julian interrupted gently. "Dated women who said it didn't matter, but suddenly got uncomfortable when their families found out. Or when we got stares in public. Or when reality hit that interracial relationships face challenges." Autumn absorbed his words, hearing the hurt beneath them. Someone had wounded him with their prejudice before. Honestly, she met his eyes. "I don't know what challenges we'd face because this," she gestured between them, "isn't real. It's just coffee. We're just two people who helped each other out." "Right," Julian said, but something flickered in his expression. Disappointment? Just coffee. But it didn't feel like just coffee. It felt like the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. They talked until the cafe closed, about everything and nothing. Autumn learned that Julian loved jazz, cooked better than any restaurant, and volunteered at a youth center on weekends. Julian discovered that Autumn was terrified of failure, worked too much to compensate, and came to the museum every Thursday to remind herself there was beauty beyond spreadsheets. When they finally stood to leave, neither wanted the evening to end. "Thank you for tonight," Autumn said at her car. "For saving me, for the conversation, for being real." "Anytime," Julian replied. Then, after a pause, "Can I see you again? For real this time, not pretend." Just us. Autumn's heart skipped. She should say no. She didn't have time for dating. Her company needed her full attention. And Julian was black. While she'd never considered herself prejudiced, she'd also never dated outside her race. What would people say? But looking at Julian, at his hopeful expression, his genuine interest, the way he'd made her laugh for the first time in months, all those concerns felt small and petty. Yes, she said, I'd like that. Julian's smile could have lit the entire city. Tomorrow night, I'll pick you up at 7. It's a date, Autumn agreed. As she drove home, Autumn couldn't stop smiling. A stranger, a fake boyfriend, and now a real date. What was she getting herself into? Autumn changed outfits 6 times before Julian's arrival. Her penthouse apartment looked like a clothing bomb had exploded. Dresses, jeans, skirts scattered across every surface. Too formal, she muttered, tossing aside a cocktail dress. Too casual, too trying hard. She finally settled on dark jeans and a soft emerald sweater that brought out her eyes, hair down and natural. Minimal makeup. She wanted to look nice, but not like she'd spent 3 hours obsessing, even though she had. The doorbell rang at exactly 7. Julian stood in her hallway holding white roses, wearing dark jeans and a leather jacket that made him look dangerously handsome. You look beautiful, he said, his eyes warm. You clean up pretty well yourself. Autumn took the flowers, breathing in their sweet scent. Let me put these in water. While she arranged the roses in a vase, Julian looked around her penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Elliott Bay, modern furniture, original art on the walls, everything expensive, nothing personal. Nice place, he said carefully. It's empty, Autumn replied honestly, surprising herself. I bought it to prove I could, but it's never felt like home. Julian understood immediately. Success can be lonely. Very. She set the vase on her counter. Where are we going? It's a surprise. Do you trust me? Autumn realized she did. This man she'd known for less than 24 hours. I trust you. Julian drove them to a small Ethiopian restaurant in the Central District. Inside, it was warm and intimate, with rich colors and the smell of spices that made Autumn's mouth water. I hope you're adventurous, Julian said as they sat on low cushions around a traditional table. I built a tech company from scratch. I'm very adventurous. He ordered the combination platter, injera bread with various stews and vegetables. When the food arrived, Julian showed her how to eat with her hands, tearing the spongy bread and scooping up the spicy lentils. This is incredible, Autumn said, flavors exploding on her tongue. How did you find this place? My father used to bring me here as a kid. Julian's expression softened with memory. The owner, Desta, watched me grow up. When my dad died, she cooked for the whole family for a week. This place is family. Autumn saw the restaurant differently then. Not just a hole-in-the-wall ethnic spot, but a home filled with history and love. Tell me about your father, she said softly. Julian's face lit up as he shared stories. His father, Marcus Foster, had been a civil rights attorney in the 70s and 80s, fought housing discrimination, police brutality, employment inequality, never got rich, but changed countless lives. He taught me that success isn't measured in money, Julian said. It's measured in impact, in making the world a little more just for the next generation. That's beautiful, Autumn said. My father died when I was 20, heart attack. He was a software engineer, brilliant but quiet. He's the one who taught me to code. Is that why you started your company? Partly, but also because I was tired of being dismissed. Tired of men in boardrooms ignoring my ideas because I was young and female. Autumn smiled wryly. So, I started my own company, where my ideas mattered. And now you're worth millions. The company is worth millions. I'm still just me. She paused. Do you think less of me? For having money? Julian looked surprised. Why would I? Because some people do. They assume I'm spoiled or out of touch or that I didn't earn it. You built something from nothing, Julian said firmly. That's the opposite of spoiled. That's impressive as hell. The conversation flowed easily from there. They talked about books, music, childhood dreams. Autumn learned that Julian played saxophone, loved Miles Davis, and made a mean breakfast scramble. Julian discovered that Autumn was terrible at cooking, sang off-key in the shower, and had a secret love for terrible reality TV. You're a tech CEO who watches The Bachelor? Julian laughed. It's my guilty pleasure, Autumn defended. Don't judge me. I'm not judging. I'm just filing away this information for later. After dinner, they walked through the neighborhood. The October air was crisp, and Autumn shivered. Julian immediately draped his jacket around her shoulders without being asked. Thank you, she murmured, pulling it close. It smelled like him, warm and masculine and safe. So, Julian said as they strolled past closed shops and late-night cafes, this is our first real date. No fake boyfriend scenario, just us. How am I doing? Pretty well, Autumn admitted, smiling. The Ethiopian food was a nice touch, very romantic. I'm smooth like that. They laughed, and Autumn felt something shift in her chest. This easy companionship, this genuine connection. When was the last time she'd felt this comfortable with someone? Can I ask you something? Julian said, his tone more serious. Yesterday, when I asked if my race bothered you, you said this wasn't real, so it didn't matter. But now it is real. So I need to know, are you okay with this? With us? Autumn stopped walking, facing him under a street light. I'm not going to lie and say I've thought about it a lot. I grew up in a very white, very privileged world. I've never dated outside my race. Julian's expression shuddered slightly. But, Autumn continued, taking his hand, when I look at you, I don't see color first. I see someone kind and intelligent and funny. Someone who makes me feel seen. Yes, you're black, and I'm white, and will probably face challenges because of that. But Julian, I'd rather face those challenges with you than miss out on something real. Julian searched her eyes for a long moment. You mean that? I do. Autumn stepped closer. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm saying you're worth it. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing her skin. You're pretty amazing, Autumn Reed. So are you, Julian Foster. They stood close, the city alive around them. Then Julian leaned down and kissed her, soft and tentative at first, then deeper as 2 years of loneliness met one night of building chemistry. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Autumn whispered. Yeah, Julian agreed. That was perfect. He drove her home, their hands linked on the console. At her door, Autumn hesitated. Come up? She asked. For real coffee this time, not a euphemism. Julian smiled. I'd like that. In her penthouse, they stood by the windows, coffee forgotten, swaying to music only they could hear. Autumn felt safe in his arms, cherished in a way Preston had never made her feel. I should go, Julian said eventually. Don't want to rush this. Rush what? Us. He pulled back to look at her. I want to do this right. Real dates, real time together, getting to know each other properly. Autumn's heart melted. You're a good man. I'm trying to be worthy of you. After he left, Autumn leaned against her door, smiling. Her phone buzzed. Julian, already missing you. Is that too honest? She typed back. Not at all. I'm missing you too. For the first time in 2 years, Autumn fell asleep happy. 3 dates in 5 days. Autumn couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this giddy, this alive. Julian made her laugh, made her think, made her feel like a woman instead of just a CEO. But reality was waiting to crash their bubble. It happened on Monday morning. Autumn walked into her office to find her assistant, Kim, looking nervous. Your mother called, Kim said carefully. 3 times. She says it's urgent. Autumn's stomach dropped. She'd been avoiding her mother's calls all weekend. Too caught up in Julian to deal with Margaret Reed's demands. She closed her office door and dialed. Autumn Elizabeth Reed. Her mother's voice was ice. I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, Mother. Too busy to return your mother's calls? What could possibly be more important than, I've been dating someone, Autumn interrupted, deciding to rip off the Band-Aid. Silence. Then, dating? Already? Autumn, it's only been 2 years since Preston. 2 years is plenty of time. His name is Julian. He's wonderful, Julian. Margaret's tone softened slightly. Well, that's nice, dear. What does he do? Where's his family from? Do I know them? Here it was, the moment of truth. He's a civil rights attorney. His family is from Seattle. And Mother, he's black. The silence on the other end was deafening. Autumn could practically hear her mother's blood pressure rising. Black, Margaret finally said, the word dripping with disapproval. Autumn, tell me this is a joke. It's not a joke. I'm dating Julian Foster. He's smart, successful, kind. I don't care if he's the president. Autumn, have you thought about what this looks like? What people will say? Your reputation, the company's reputation. I don't care what people think. Autumn interrupted, her voice shaking with anger. For once in my life, I'm choosing what makes me happy instead of what looks good at the country club. This is about Preston. You're rebelling because you were hurt. This has nothing to do with Preston. Autumn's voice rose. Julian is nothing like Preston. He sees me, Mother. He values me. He makes me happy. And yes, he's black. If you have a problem with that, that's your problem, not mine. You're throwing away everything we've worked for. No, I'm finally living for myself. Autumn felt tears of frustration. When you're ready to meet Julian as a person instead of judging him by his skin color, you can call me. Until then, we have nothing to discuss. She hung up, her hands shaking. For 35 years, she'd never stood up to her mother like that. Her phone buzzed. Julian, lunch today? I'm buying. Autumn smiled despite the tears threatening to fall. Yes, I need to see you. Everything okay? Will be when I see you. At lunch, they sat in a quiet cafe, and Autumn told him everything about her mother's reaction. The judgment, the barely concealed racism. I'm sorry, Julian said quietly. This is what I was afraid of. Don't apologize for my mother's ignorance. Autumn took his hand across the table. She's wrong about everything. But she's your mother, your family. Julian's expression was pained. I don't want to come between you and your family. You're not. She's doing that by refusing to see you as anything but your race. Autumn squeezed his hand. Julian, I meant what I said. You're worth it. Whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together. You sure about that? Julian's eyes searched hers. Because it's going to get harder. Your mother is just the beginning. Your business associates, your friends, strangers on the street. People are going to have opinions. Let them. Autumn's voice was firm. I'm done living my life for other people's approval. Julian smiled then, pride shining in his eyes. You're pretty brave. You know that? I'm learning from you. They finished lunch, their hands linked on the table, ignoring the curious glances from other patrons. Autumn felt the stares but refused to let them matter. This was real. This was worth fighting for. That evening, Julian invited her to meet his family. Autumn agreed, nervous but determined. Fair warning, Julian said, as they drove to his mother's house in Rainier Valley. My family is a lot. They're loud, they're opinionated, and they will interrogate you. I can handle it. And my grandmother, Mama Grace, she's going to ask if you're serious about me. She doesn't play games. Autumn smiled. Good. Neither do I. The Foster family home was nothing like Autumn's childhood mansion or her sterile penthouse. It was warm, lived in, filled with photos and laughter and the smell of home cooking. Julian's mother, Patricia, answered the door. She was a petite woman with kind eyes and her son's warm smile. So, you're the woman who's got my Julian smiling like a teenager, Patricia said, pulling Autumn into an unexpected hug. Inside, the house was filled with family. Julian's sister Nicole with her husband and 2 kids, his younger brother Andre, a high school teacher, his uncle Robert, and Mama Grace, a small, elegant woman in her 70s who radiated authority. Everyone. This is Autumn, Julian announced. Autumn, this is everyone. The kids, 7-year-old twins named Maya and Marcus, immediately dragged Autumn into their game. She found herself on the floor, building towers with blocks while the adults watched with amusement. She's good with kids, Nicole observed, grinning at her brother. She's good at everything, Julian replied, his eyes soft. Over dinner, fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread. Autumn fielded friendly questions. What did she do? How did she meet Julian? What were her intentions? I love him, Autumn said simply when Mama Grace asked. I know it's only been a week, but he makes me want to be braver, to be better. Mama Grace studied her with eyes that missed nothing. And your family? How do they feel about my grandson? Autumn met her gaze directly. My mother's struggling with it, but I don't need her approval. Julian is worth more than that. And when people stare, when they make comments, when it gets hard, Mama Grace's voice was gentle but testing. Then I'll stand beside him anyway, Autumn said firmly. I'm not naive. I know we'll face challenges, but I'd rather face them with Julian than walk away from something real. Mama Grace nodded slowly, a small smile forming. Good answer, child. After dinner, the kids wanted to play basketball in the driveway. Autumn kicked off her heels and joined them, laughing as 7-year-old Marcus scored on her repeatedly. Julian watched from the porch, his heart full. She's good for you, Patricia said, joining him. I haven't seen you this happy since your father died. I love her, Mom. I can see that. But baby, be careful. Patricia's voice held concern. She comes from a different world. Money, privilege. What happens when reality hits? When her mother puts pressure on her? When her business associates start talking? Then we'll face it together, Julian said, watching Autumn laugh as Maya stole the ball. She's stronger than you think. I hope so, because you deserve someone who stays when it gets hard. Inside, Mama Grace pulled Autumn aside. Come sit with me, child. They sat on the worn couch, the sounds of family filling the house around them. My grandson loves you, Mama Grace said. I can see it plain as day, and I think you love him too. I do, Autumn admitted. More than I expected to this fast. Love doesn't follow timelines. Mama Grace patted her hand. But loving a black man in this world, that takes more than love. It takes courage, strength, the willingness to be uncomfortable and stand firm anyway. I know. Autumn met her eyes. My mother called me today. Said terrible things about Julian without even meeting him. And I realized I've been protected from racism my whole life because of my skin color. But Julian hasn't. He faces it every day. And if I'm going to be with him, I need to educate myself. To use my privilege to fight alongside him, not hide behind it. Mama Grace smiled, warm and genuine. Now that's what I needed to hear. Welcome to the family, Autumn Reed. Tears stung Autumn's eyes. Thank you. When they left that night, Autumn felt lighter. Julian's family had accepted her without hesitation. The warmth she'd felt in that house was real, unconditional. Your family's amazing, she said in the car. They loved you, especially Mama Grace, and she doesn't approve of just anyone. Julian took her hand. You passed the test. There was a test? There's always a test with Mama Grace. He grinned. And you aced it. At her penthouse, Julian walked her to the door. The kiss was deeper this time, more certain. When they broke apart, both knew something had shifted. Stay, Autumn whispered. Julian cupped her face. Not yet. When I stay, I want it to mean something. I want us to be sure. I am sure. So am I. But let's take our time. Do this right. He kissed her forehead. Soon, though. I promise. After he left, Autumn touched her lips, still feeling his kiss. She was falling for him, hard and fast and completely. And it terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type Zorro. We want to know what you think. 2 weeks into dating, Reed Technologies hosted its annual investor gala, Black Tie Affair, Seattle's elite, and Autumn's board had made it clear they expected her to attend alone. Bringing your friend would send the wrong message, Charles Hammond, the oldest board member, had said delicately. Autumn had responded by putting Julian's name on the guest list. The night of the gala, Julian picked her up in a rented tux. He looked devastating, sophisticated, confident, undeniably handsome. You look incredible, he said, taking in her midnight blue gown. So do you. Autumn kissed him softly. Ready to face the wolves? With you? Always. The moment they walked into the Four Seasons ballroom, conversation stopped. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Autumn felt Julian tense beside her, but he kept his expression calm, pleasant. His hand at the small of her back was steady, grounding. Charles approached immediately, his smile tight as a wire. Autumn, Mr. Foster, what a surprise. Julian is my guest, Autumn said firmly. And my boyfriend. The word hung in the air. Official, public, no more hiding. Of course, Charles said stiffly. I hope you both enjoy the evening. For the next hour, they navigated the room together. Some people were polite, curious even. Others were cold, dismissive, their judgment barely concealed. One investor, a man who'd put $5 million into her company, actually asked Julian if he was working the event before Autumn's icy glare shut him down. I'm sorry, Autumn whispered during a break, her cheeks flushed with anger and embarrassment. These people are exactly what I expected, Julian finished gently. It's okay. I've dealt with worse. You shouldn't have to deal with any of it. Autumn's hands clenched into fists. Julian turned her to face him, his hands warm on her arms. Being with you is worth 1,000 ignorant comments. Don't apologize for them. They were swaying on the dance floor when disaster struck. Preston Caldwell III appeared, clearly drunk, pushing through the crowd. Security should have stopped him, but Preston's family donated too much money for anyone to risk offending him. There's the happy couple, Preston announced loudly, drawing every eye in the room. The music stopped. Seattle's most unlikely romance. Preston, leave, Autumn said coldly. Now, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Preston swayed slightly, his words slurred. A rich white CEO and some lawyer from the hood? Come on, Autumn. What's the angle? Diversity points? Proving how liberal you are? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Julian's jaw clenched, but he remained silent, his hand tight around Autumn's. You're drunk, Autumn said, her voice shaking with fury. Go home. I'm drunk on truth. Preston laughed bitterly. Tell me, Foster, how much is she paying you? Because we all know you couldn't afford her otherwise. The slap echoed through the silent ballroom. Autumn's palm print bloomed red on Preston's cheek. Get out. Autumn's voice was pure steel. Security. As 2 security guards dragged Preston toward the exit, he shouted, You're throwing everything away for him. You'll regret this. The ballroom remained frozen. 300 pairs of eyes on Autumn and Julian, judging, assessing, waiting to see what she'd do. Autumn turned to face the crowd. Her heart hammered, but her voice was steady. I apologize for that disruption. Preston Caldwell is my ex-fiancé who clearly hasn't moved on, but let me be very clear about something. She took Julian's hand, raising it for everyone to see. This is Julian Foster. He's a civil rights attorney. Autumn turned to face the crowd. Her heart hammered, but her voice was steady. I apologize for that disruption. Preston Caldwell is my ex-fiancé who clearly hasn't moved on, but let me be very clear about something. She took Julian's hand, raising it for everyone to see. This is Julian Foster. He's a civil rights attorney, Harvard Law graduate, and partner at one of the most respected firms in Seattle. He's brilliant, compassionate, and treats me better than anyone ever has. And yes, we're together. If anyone has a problem with that, the door is right there. Silence. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. Lily Chen, one of the younger board members. Others joined. Not everyone, but enough. Half the room applauded while the other half looked uncomfortable. Charles Hammond stepped forward, his expression carefully neutral. Perhaps we should continue the evening. The music resumed. Conversations restarted. But nothing would be the same. Julian pulled Autumn into his arms on the dance floor, both of them trembling slightly. You just defended us in front of everyone who matters to your career. I meant every word. Autumn looked up at him, tears threatening. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I'm not. Julian's voice was fierce. Because you chose me, publicly, in front of your entire world. That's everything, Autumn. They finished the gala, heads high, hands linked. Some people avoided them. Others approached with genuine congratulations. Charles kept his distance, but Lily Chen pulled Autumn aside. That was brave, Lily said quietly, and overdue. This company needs to practice the diversity we preach. Thank you for leading by example. Later that night, on Autumn's penthouse balcony, wrapped in blankets and drinking wine, they finally processed what happened. I might have just destroyed my career, Autumn said, staring at the city lights. Or you showed them you're more than a CEO, that you're a human being with principles. Julian pulled her closer. What you did tonight took real courage. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid and doing it anyway. Julian tilted her chin up, his eyes intense. I'm so proud of you. Preston's family will retaliate. Charles will push back. My mother, Autumn's voice trailed off. Then we'll face it together. Julian's thumb brushed her cheek. But Autumn, I need you to be sure. Really sure. Because it's going to get harder before it gets easier. Autumn looked at him. This man who'd held her hand in a museum when she was desperate. Who'd become her fake boyfriend, and then something so much more real. Who made her laugh and think and feel alive. I've never been more sure of anything, she said. I love you, Julian Foster. His eyes widened. They hadn't said those words yet. You love me? I do. I know it's fast and crazy, but I love you, and I'm not taking it back. Julian's face broke into the most beautiful smile. Good, because I love you too. Have since that first coffee, I think. They kissed deeply, wine forgotten, the gala drama fading. In that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, they were just two people in love. Everything else was noise. Monday morning arrived with the force of a freight train. Autumn's phone had been buzzing non-stop since Saturday night. The gala incident had made the news, social media, even morning talk shows. Tech CEO slaps ex-fiancé in defense of boyfriend was the kindest headline. Others were worse, much worse, focusing on the interracial aspect with thinly veiled racism. Kim greeted her with coffee and a thick folder. Emergency board meeting in 20 minutes. Your mother is called 18 times, and Preston's lawyer sent a letter threatening to sue for assault. Let him sue. Autumn sipped her coffee, her jaw set. I have 300 witnesses who saw him verbally attack Julian first. The board meeting was brutal. Charles led the charge, his face red with barely contained anger. This is exactly what we were afraid of, he said, pacing the conference room. Your personal drama is now headline news. Investors are calling with concerns. Our stock took a hit this morning. A 2% dip, Autumn interrupted sharply, which recovered by noon. Try again, Charles. The issue isn't the stock. Another board member, Robert, chimed in. It's the optics. Your relationship is creating controversy. My relationship. Autumn stood, her voice cutting. Preston crashed a private event, drunk, and made racist accusations against my boyfriend. I defended him. If this board has a problem with that, maybe we need to examine why you're more concerned about optics than ethics. Lily Chen spoke up. I was there. Preston was completely out of line. What Autumn did, standing up to him, defending Julian, that took courage. Frankly, I'm proud to work for a CEO who lives her values instead of just putting them in press releases. This isn't about values, Charles snapped. It's about Autumn's poor judgment. Dating someone so unsuitable. Unsuitable? Autumn's voice was dangerously quiet. Say what you really mean, Charles. You think Julian is unsuitable because he's black. The room went silent. Charles's face flushed. I never said you didn't have to. Autumn leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. Let me make something very clear. My relationship with Julian is healthy, professional, and none of your business, unless my job performance has suffered. Have my numbers dropped? Have I missed deadlines? Lost clients? Silence. My revenue is up 23% this quarter. Client satisfaction is at an all-time high. I just closed the Ashford deal that everyone said was impossible. Autumn's voice was steel. So, unless you have legitimate, work-related concerns, this meeting is over. We're not finished, Charles started. Yes, we are. Autumn gathered her things. And Charles, I expect your resignation by end of business today. This company doesn't tolerate racism, even the polite kind hiding behind concerns about optics. She walked out, her hands shaking but her head high. In her office, Julian was waiting with lunch. He'd taken a long lunch break from his own firm to be there for her. "How bad?" he asked, setting out Thai food. Charles is being his usual bigoted self, but Lily backed me up, and I just fired Charles. Julian's eyebrows rose. "You fired a board member?" "Requested his resignation." "Same thing." Autumn collapsed into his arms. "I'm exhausted." "I know." Julian stroked her hair. "We can slow down if you want. Keep things more private." "No." Autumn pulled back sharply. "I'm not hiding you. I'm not pretending we're not together. The people who have a problem with us can leave." Julian smiled, proud and relieved. "You're amazing. I'm tired and angry and completely in love with you." Autumn kissed him, and I'm not apologizing for any of it. They ate lunch in comfortable silence, both processing the morning's drama. Autumn's phone buzzed constantly. Beat texts of support from employees, hate mail from strangers, a surprising message from an old college friend saying she was inspired. "Look at this." Autumn showed Julian a text from a young employee, a black woman in engineering. "She says seeing me stand up for you made her feel like she belongs here. That representation matters." Julian read the message, his expression softening. "That's beautiful. We're making a difference," Autumn said quietly. "Just by being us, by refusing to hide. Every time we hold hands in public, we're telling someone else they can too." Julian agreed. "That's the power of visibility." That evening, Autumn faced her biggest challenge yet. Her mother showed up at her apartment unannounced. Margaret Reed stood in the hallway, perfectly coiffed, designer purse clutched tight. "We need to talk." "Come in," Autumn said, steeling herself. In the penthouse, Margaret paced like a caged animal. "I saw the news, the headlines." "Autumn, do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" "Humiliating for who?" Autumn crossed her arms. "I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud of Julian, proud of us." "You slapped someone. In public, at a business event." "I defended the man I love from racist attacks." "It wasn't racist," Margaret insisted. "Preston was just racist," Autumn interrupted firmly. "He called Julian a gold digger from the hood. He implied I was paying him to date me. That's racism, Mother. And I won't tolerate it from Preston or anyone else." Margaret sank into a chair, suddenly looking older. "You really love him." "I do. More than I've ever loved anyone." "Even though he's black?" "Yes, Mother. Even though he's black. Actually, not even though. Just, yes, I love him. Period." Autumn sat across from her mother. "And I need you to understand something. I'm not choosing between you and Julian. But if you can't accept him, if you can't even try, then you're choosing to not be part of my life." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I'm your mother. I'm trying to protect you." "From what? Happiness? Love?" Autumn's voice softened. "Mom, I've been miserable for 2 years. Preston destroyed me. And then Julian came along and made me remember what it feels like to be seen, valued, cherished. Do you really want to take that away from me? I just worry what people will say." "I don't care what people say." Autumn's voice rose. "I care about being happy. Finally, for the first time in years, I'm happy. Can't that be enough?" Margaret was quiet for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "I need time." "Take all the time you need," Autumn said, her voice gentle but firm. "But know that I'm moving forward, with or without your blessing." After her mother left, Autumn called Julian, needing to hear his voice. "Hey, beautiful," he answered. "How'd it go with your mom?" "About as expected. She's struggling, but I think she'll come around eventually." Autumn curled up on her couch. "Can you come over? I need you." "I'm already in the car." 20 minutes later, Julian was there, holding her while she cried out the stress and fear and exhaustion of the past few days. "I'm scared," she admitted into his chest. "What if I lose everything? My company, my family, my reputation?" "Then we'll rebuild," Julian said firmly. "But Autumn, you won't lose everything. You're too strong, too valuable. And the people worth keeping, they'll stay. Promise?" "I promise." He tilted her face up. "And no matter what happened, you have me, always." Autumn kissed him then, deep and desperate, needing to feel connected to something solid and real. Julian responded with equal intensity, both of them pouring months of tension and fear and love into that kiss. "Stay tonight," Autumn whispered. "Please, I don't want to be alone." Julian searched her eyes. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." That night, they crossed the final barrier, making love for the first time with a tenderness and passion that took Autumn's breath away. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, she felt safe for the first time since the gala. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Julian replied, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "No matter what comes next, we face it together," Autumn agreed, finally falling into peaceful sleep. 3 weeks after the gala, things began to shift. Charles Hammond resigned from the board. 2 other members followed, but younger, more progressive board members stepped up to fill the gaps. Lily Chen became Autumn's right hand, helping reshape the company culture. They implemented new diversity initiatives, partnered with organizations supporting women and minorities in tech, and created mentorship programs. Reed Technologies' reputation didn't suffer. It flourished. Young talent flooded their applicant pool. Progressive investors reached out. Autumn was invited to speak at conferences about leading with authenticity. But the real turning point came when Julian's firm won a landmark case. A black woman had been denied a promotion because of her race. Julian led the legal team, and they won a record-setting settlement. The press coverage was massive. Julian's face was everywhere. Intelligent, articulate, fighting for justice. Suddenly, people saw him not as Autumn's boyfriend, but as a force in his own right. Autumn watched the interview on the news, pride swelling in her chest. This was the man she loved. Brilliant, passionate, changing lives. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Autumn Reed. Ms. Reed, this is Margaret Whitmore. Not Mom. Her mother's formal voice. I saw the news about Julian's case. And? A long pause. I was wrong about him. About everything. Autumn's breath caught. What? I watched his interview. I read about the case. I looked into his background, his work, his reputation. Margaret's voice cracked. He's remarkable, Autumn, and I've been a bigoted fool. Tears streamed down Autumn's face. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me immediately, but I'd like to meet him, properly, if he'll agree. He will, Autumn whispered. He's wanted to meet you since the beginning. Then let's have dinner, the three of us. I want to apologize, to both of you. The dinner happened the following week, at a neutral restaurant. Margaret arrived early, visibly nervous. When Autumn and Julian walked in hand, Margaret stood. Julian, she said, extending her hand. I owe you an enormous apology. Julian shook her hand, his expression cautious but open. Mrs. Reed, Margaret, please. She gestured to the table. Sit, both of you. Over dinner, Margaret asked questions, real questions about Julian's work, his family, his childhood. She listened when he talked about his father, his dreams, his relationship with Autumn. You really love my daughter, Margaret finally said. More than anything, Julian confirmed. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry for judging you without knowing you, for letting my prejudices blind me to my daughter's happiness, for being exactly the kind of person I raised Autumn not to be. Thank you for that, Julian said gently. It takes courage to admit you were wrong. I want to do better, Margaret said, looking between them. I want to be part of your lives, if you'll let me. Autumn reached across the table and took her mother's hand. We'd like that. By the end of dinner, Margaret was laughing at Julian's stories, asking about wedding plans before catching herself, and tentatively asking to meet Mama Grace. In the parking lot, Margaret hugged Autumn tightly. He's wonderful. You were right about everything. Thank you for trying, Mom. That's all I needed. After Margaret left, Julian pulled Autumn into his arms. Your mom just apologized to me and approved of us. I'm still processing. Autumn laughed into his chest. It's a miracle. No, Julian said, tilting her chin up. It's you. Your courage changed her mind. That's the power of standing firm in love. 4 months after meeting in a museum, Julian planned something special. He enlisted Mama Grace, Patricia, Nicole, everyone who loved Autumn. They returned to the Seattle Art Museum on a Thursday evening. Autumn thought it was just their weekly date night tradition. The Rothko exhibit is still here, Julian said, leading her to the same gallery where they'd met. I love this painting, Autumn said, studying the abstract canvas with the warm familiarity of memory. It reminds me of the night we met, when I grabbed your hand like a crazy person. Best crazy decision anyone ever made. Julian turned her to face him. Autumn, do you remember what you were running from that night? My ex, embarrassment, the past. And what did you find instead? Autumn smiled, her eyes shining. You, us, the future. Julian took both her hands. Around them, museum visitors began to notice something was happening. Autumn Reed, 4 months ago you grabbed my hand in a moment of desperation. You were running from your past, scared and alone. I was just a stranger, admiring art. His voice thickened with emotion. But somehow, that moment changed everything. You taught me that love doesn't ask permission, that happiness requires bravery, that two people from different worlds can create something beautiful together. Tears streamed down Autumn's face as Julian dropped to one knee. The crowd gathering around them gasped. You didn't just accept me. You celebrated me. You stood up to your family, your board, your entire world, and said, this is who I love. You used your privilege to open doors, to challenge prejudice, to show others that love is braver than fear. He pulled out a ring box. I want to spend my life being worthy of that courage. Autumn Elizabeth Reed, will you marry me? The ring was perfect, a stunning solitaire with small sapphires on either side, matching her eyes. Yes, Autumn was laughing and crying simultaneously. God, yes. 1,000 times yes. Julian slid the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss as the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. When they broke apart, both were grinning like fools, tears streaming down their faces. "I love you so much," Autumn whispered. "I love you too," Julian replied. "Forever." An older woman in the crowd approached, wiping her eyes. "That was beautiful. My husband and I are interracial too. Been married 40 years. Seeing you two gives me hope for the next generation." More people congratulated them. Diverse couples, young people, even museum staff. Their story had rippled out, touching strangers, giving courage to others. That night, they called everyone. Mama Grace cried happy tears. Patricia and Nicole screamed with excitement. Margaret asked about wedding plans and offered to help, which made Autumn cry all over again. "We did it," Autumn said later, curled up in Julian's arms. "From fake museum boyfriend to real fiancé. How did we get here?" "One brave choice at a time," Julian replied, kissing her forehead. "You grabbed my hand and refused to let go. Best decision I ever made. Best decision we both made." How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. They planned a wedding that honored both their worlds. The ceremony at the Seattle Art Museum, where their story began. The reception at Julian's family church, where his roots ran deep. 6 months of planning brought both families together in unexpected ways. Margaret and Mama Grace became genuine friends, bonding over wedding details and shared love for the couple. Patricia helped Autumn choose her dress. Nicole and Lily planned the bachelorette party. Even Charles Hammond sent a letter of apology and a generous gift. The wedding day arrived perfect and clear. Autumn stood in the museum's bridal suite, her simple ivory gown elegant, her blonde hair in soft waves. "You look like a dream," Margaret said, tears in her eyes. "My beautiful, brave girl." "Thanks, Mom." Autumn squeezed her hand. "Thank you for being here, for changing, for seeing Julian. Thank you for not giving up on me," Margaret replied, adjusting Autumn's veil. "You were right about everything. Love is worth fighting for." The ceremony was beautiful. Autumn walked down the aisle past the Rothko painting, toward Julian, who stood waiting with tears streaming down his face, and Mama Grace beside him. "You look incredible," he mouthed. The officiant, Julian's childhood pastor, smiled at them both. "We gather today to celebrate a love that refused to follow rules, a love that broke barriers, challenged prejudices, and chose courage over comfort." Their vows were perfect, heartfelt, making everyone cry. "Julian Foster," Autumn said, her voice strong despite her tears. 4 months ago, I grabbed your hand in desperation. You could have walked away. Instead, you held on. You saw me when I felt invisible. You loved me when it was hard. You taught me that love doesn't ask permission, that happiness requires bravery, that 2 hearts from different worlds can create something beautiful. I promise to choose you every day, to fight for us, to love you without limits." Julian's voice was thick with emotion. "Autumn Reed, I've fought for justice my whole life, but I never fully believed in it until you chose me in front of everyone who mattered, until you stood up to your family and said, 'This is who I love.' You didn't just accept me, you celebrated me. You showed others that love transcends all boundaries. I promise to be worthy of your courage, to cherish your heart, to build a life that honors both our worlds." When they kissed, the room exploded in cheers. At the reception, both families mixed beautifully. Margaret danced with Uncle Robert. Mama Grace and Patricia laughed together. Young interracial couples approached them, thanking them for being visible, for giving others courage. 1 year later, Autumn and Julian returned to their Rothko painting for their anniversary. "Remember when you thought you were just avoiding your ex?" Julian teased. "And you were just an innocent stranger I accosted." Autumn laughed. "Best accosting ever." Julian pulled her close. "Look how far we've come." They had indeed. Reed Technologies thrived. Julian's firm expanded. They'd bought a house in a diverse neighborhood, filled it with love and laughter. And Autumn was 3 months pregnant. "I have news," she said, taking his hand and placing it on her small bump. Julian's eyes widened. We're having a baby." Joy flooded Julian's face as he spun her around gently, both laughing and crying. "A baby," he kept repeating. "Our baby." They sat on their bench, Julian's hand protective on her stomach. "They'll grow up knowing both families, both cultures," Autumn said softly. "They'll never question whether love can cross boundaries, because they'll be living proof. They'll grow up brave," Julian added, "just like their mother." A young interracial couple walked by, holding hands nervously. They recognized Autumn and Julian and smiled. "Encouraged, we're making a difference," Autumn whispered. "Just by being us. That's the power of love," Julian replied. "Every time we refuse to hide, we give someone else permission to be brave." They left the museum hand in hand, just like that first night. But now they weren't strangers playing pretend. They were partners, lovers, best friends, soon to be parents, all because Autumn had been brave enough to grab a stranger's hand, and Julian had been kind enough to hold on. That's what real love is. Not the perfect meet-cute or the easy path, but the willingness to hold hands through every storm, every judgment, every obstacle, and never let go. That's the love worth fighting for. That's the love that changes not just two lives, but ripples out to change the world, one held hand at a time.